Thank you. At the Civic Party, we're used to hearing Alan's monologue, so today we have a chance to have a dialogue.
That's a progress.
Joking aside, it's a privilege to be here. Thank you very much for inviting Alan and myself. And it's a real pleasure coming all the way up here to Toronto, meeting so many new friends. A bit about myself. I was born in Canada. I was born in Edmonton. My father was working there as an engineer at the time. But my family emigrated back to Hong Kong when I was 3, so I grew up in Hong Kong. But Canada has always been considered as my second home. So technically speaking, I am a second-generation return immigrant to be studied by Eric and his project. So you can study me. But I think, and my email. I think for people in my generation of Hong Kong citizens and the next generation, the biggest political question that we will all face in our lifetime is whether the concept of one country, two systems, self-autonomy and self-government could continue up to 2046 and beyond. That is the biggest political question facing our generation. Whether the freedoms, the values, the institutions, the rule of law that we have in Hong Kong could continue going forward and beyond 2046. The reason why I think this is the biggest political question facing our generation is because after witnessing 14 years of Hong Kong SAR government since the handover, I think the biggest consensus amongst the people of Hong Kong is that the present system does not work. It does not reflect the realities of 21st century Hong Kong. The system is outdated. It does not reflect the aspiration of the Hong Kong people. So, well, Alan has touched on this a bit in his introduction, but what you can see in Hong Kong right now is there's a high level of dissatisfaction, and that dissatisfaction is strange in a way because Hong Kong is so prosperous in many ways that the government is filled with surplus. When governments around the world are dealing with debt crisis, we have enough money to hand out to $6,000 for each person in order to appease them. But why is the public dissatisfaction so high when, on the surface at least, we have a government that has the ability to do so much? So there is a real sense of governing crisis in Hong Kong, and the questions which people are asking in some circles is Hong Kong still governable? My short answer to that question is no. Under the present system, Hong Kong is not governable because the system has failed to catch up with the developments of the society as a whole. So, as I said, I think if the present governing crisis is to continue, that the Hong Kong people fail to demonstrate that they could effectively govern themselves under the framework of one country, two systems, then the serious question that would emerge is when it comes to negotiating with Beijing regarding the continuation of this framework and the continuation of the basic law beyond 2046, we will be in a very weak position because we have not shown that we could properly govern this place that we call home. So that's why I begin by putting this question about whether this political question facing my generation and the next is the one country, two system concept and whether it could carry forward. Now, if you agree with me that the present system doesn't work, then the next question is reform. Now, how do we reform the present system in order to make it better or make it work better for the Hong Kong people? Now, as I see it, there are two broad ways of reform. On the one hand, you can say there should be more democratization in the system. There should be more direct democracy in the system. Right now, we don't have universal suffrage. Should we go that way? Should we go give more power to the people and so that they could participate bottom up? Or the other reform, the other way of reform, which some people believe should be the way, is what I call the more concentration of powers in a smaller group of people, so that things could be done more effectively, so that there will be more, if I may put it that way, a more sort of Singaporean model, which some in Beijing believes that Hong Kong should become a more concentrated system of government, where there's a one-party rule, effectively dominating the whole of legislature, where the judiciary will work with the government, and whenever you criticize the government, you will be sued for defamation, and the court will always rule in favor of the government. Should we have that kind of system where everything is streamlined, power is concentrated, or should we reform the system to liberalize, if I may say, use that word, liberalize the power, the concentrated power, and to facilitate and to empower the people from bottom up so that they can participate in a fairer and more equal democratic system of government. Now, of course, Alan and I are a big proponent of the further democratization of Hong Kong, because we believe that by reforming the system in this manner, this is the way in which Hong Kong could show that it could govern itself effectively in the 21st century, and that this is the kind of system that Hong Kong needs, and that the more concentration of powers in the hands of a few does not suit the reality of Hong Kong, certainly not for people in my generation and the next. So the interesting thing is and I would like to open this question to the floor, is that the question Hong Kong faces are interestingly what the world faces in the 21st century, because so much is talked about the China model these days, that China model with their authoritarianism, with the way that, at least on the surface, that the things are getting done, the country's becoming more prosperous, things are getting done effectively and efficiently. Whereas a lot of Western democracies we see are facing a debt crisis after another, that they seem to be falling apart. Now, the debate is, in a way, very similar to the debate that Hong Kong faces at this juncture. Is which road do we go down? What choice do we make? What options we decide is better for the future of good governance? So I think Hong Kong has always been a barometer of national progress. This is a 100-year centenary of anniversary of the 1911 revolution, and Dr. Sun conceived his revolutionary ideas in Hong Kong. Hong Kong has acted as a laboratory in economic, social affairs and political affairs for the rest of the nation, pushing the nation towards modernization. Now, I believe Hong Kong can still play that role. Hong Kong will never become the political capital of China, but its role will always be pivotal in changing the whole atmosphere of China, in helping to show the way forward. Now, I believe that Hong Kong can play that role in showing the way of how, in a Chinese society, how democracy could work with the rule of law. Hong Kong can be a pioneer in that sense. So thank you for your patience, and we'll open up the dialogue with